He soon perceived that a slope had been formed, and that the rock had slid along this until it stopped at the spot it now occupied. A large stone had served as a wedge. Flints and pebbles had been inserted around it so as to conceal the orifice. This species of masonry had been covered with earth, and grass and weeds had grown there. Moss had clung to the stones, myrtle bushes had taken root, and the old rock seemed fixed to the earth. Dante dug away at the earth carefully, and detected, or fancied he detected, an ingenious artifice. He attacked this wall, cemented by the hand of time, with his pickaxe. After 10 minutes' labor, the wall gave way, and a hole large enough to insert the arm was opened. Dante went and cut the strongest olive tree he could find, stripped off its branches, inserted it in the hole, and used it as a lever. But the rock was too heavy, and too firmly wedged, to be moved by any one man, were he Hercules himself. Dante saw that he must attack the wedge. But how? He cast his eyes around, and saw the horn full of powder which his friend Jacopo had left him. He smiled. The infernal invention would serve him for this purpose. With the aid of his pickaxe, Dante, after the manner of a labor-saving pioneer, dug a mine between the upper rock and the one that supported it, filled it with powder, and then made a match by rolling his handkerchief in saltpeter. He lighted it and retired. The explosion soon followed. The upper rock was lifted from its base by the terrific force of the powder. The lower one flew into pieces. Thousands of insects escaped from the aperture Dante had previously formed, and a huge snake, like the guardian demon of the treasure, rolled himself along in darkening coils and disappeared. Thousands of insects escaped from the aperture Dante had previously formed. That is like one of those tongue twisters you do to prepare for a public speech. Thousands of insects escaped from the aperture. Holy shit, that was hard to say. Folks, I notoriously have a hard time speaking. That is, I think, why I tend to over-enunciate things. Do I want to go into this personal detail about me? I've been given in this life an overlarge tongue. I don't mean to be gross about it. I don't want to gross you out. I guess this is a trigger warning for people who are grossed out by these things. My tongue is big. It's overlarge. It gets in the way. When I close my mouth, my tongue sits firmly between my upper and lower teeth. My teeth never touch because my tongue is always there. When I was a kid, I was offered the choice, well, I mean, as far as a child can choose, of having surgery to reduce the size of my tongue or have braces for an extended period of time. I opted for braces, which I had, I think, for about 8 years, if that's correct. Let's see, I got them, maybe in fourth grade, and I had them almost all the way through high school. So, yeah, roughly about that amount of time, because I wasn't about to have my tongue surgically removed. Holy shit, folks. Why would you do that to a child? Anyway, it provides me with a lot of obstacles I have to overcome in terms of speaking, enunciating, pronunciating, not mumbling. I have to... it's compounded by the fact that my brain works unfortunately fast. I'm not saying accurately. I'm not saying it works well. I'm just saying it operates at lightning fast speed. And so it's this constant struggle of my brain being 10 paces ahead of my tongue, which has to go so slow. And so I have such a hard time communicating my thoughts to people and speaking clearly. So maybe before every time I record now, I will just return to this phrase, thousands of insects escaped from the aperture, thousands of insects escaped from the aperture, thousands of insects escaped from the aperture. Okay, my bullshit aside, what do we learn from this passage? More of Dumas equating what Dante's doing to mythological stuff. He says that even Hercules couldn't move the rock that he is up against here. We see a little of Dante's ingenuity. He's now putting to practice some of the more chemical solutions. That's a pun. I'm smart enough to recognize that. Solutions involving, chemical reactions to affect a purpose. So he looks at the gunpowder and realizes, okay, that can serve me in this moment. So in this chapter, we've already seen his patience, his deduction at work, his logical side of his brain, putting together his smarts for how to use the tools at his disposal to a means to an end. Meanwhile, we have Dumas just like, this is the sort of detail that I think would be easy to overlook, that I would overlook if I was just reading this as normal. There's a lot of symbolism here in this, as I said about Hercules already, but the idea of like the snake, the guardian demon of the treasure, is not only like mythologically significant, but I think it almost moves it to kind of biblical proportions. And listen, okay, I'm not going to get religious and political here on the show about this, but to me, biblical is mythological, and I don't see those as different. However, I have to acknowledge that there is a difference to people receiving this to writing it. So biblical proportions being different from mythical proportions, in that there's a providence to it, a sort of divine presence at play, because the chapter even begins with Dumas saying that Dante was alone except by the hand of God. So the fact that this methodology he uses to open this boulder, and then the serpent kind of coiling away, is in a way maybe representative of him vanquishing darkness and on the right path to his destiny. I don't know. I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academic. I'm not a theologian. So what do I know? I'm just kind of pointing fingers at things and saying, hey, look at that thing over there. That's a serpent. That's a snake. Maybe that's worth something to consider, huh? I don't know. I'm losing my mind a little bit here. I have to admit, it's the last hot day of the year, and it's hot in this podcast studio, so forgive my insane ramblings. But if you like them, why don't you just join me here tomorrow? I'm sure I'll have more for you. Let's continue down chapter 24. Until then, okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.